Like to call to order the Shade Tree Commission meeting of July 25th, 2024. If we could have a roll call.
Certainly. Miss Adams,
Here.
Mr. Vanicola,
Here.
Ms. Wagner,
Here.
Mr. Rice, absent, Mr. Flynn.
Here.
The township arborist notified us that he may be coming this evening, but he has a conflict in his schedule early.
Okay, thank you. All right, if we could pause for a moment of silence and then we'll stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, I'd like to make a motion to consider approving the agenda unless someone has something else to add or change. Hearing none, do I have a second?
Here.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, we have no one in the audience, so I don't think we have any public comments for the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to consider approving the minutes from the June 27, 2024 meeting. I have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right. Under new business, discussion and possible action regarding hazard street trees. Well, I think the one that sort of prompted that discussion fell, and
Well, one of them.
one of them fell, and then another one fell and took out a power line. Mr. Vanicola?
Did Steve talk to you about those ones down there on,
The ones at the corner of Gradyville and 252,
yes,
or Bishop Hollow.
yeah.
correct?
Bishop
Yeah,
Hollow.
Bishop Hollow and Gradyville. Yes, we did send notice. Property maintenance inspector had gone out, spoken to the property owner. They identified that the one tree was definitely theirs. There was some question about whether or not the other tree was theirs or the adjacent property owner. So that's still ongoing, but they are taking action to address those trees.
Are there any others that you had concerns about?
Not that I know of, they're all over the place. There's stuff here on Bishop Hall Road.
I
There's
know,
everything in the
there's-
street, right here on Danny's property there. There's big,
sorry, where is it?
right here.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it's on. What's it, Janny right here? A big ash tree overhanging the road and stuff.
I wasn't aware of it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's right out, it's literally like half a block up here. You know, there's big ash tree hanging over the road and stuff, so,
And it's on the east side of.
yes,
Bishop Hollow?
Bishop Hollow, yes.
I wasn't aware of that, so.
All right,
There's a couple other, or there's another one that I saw on Bishop Hollow that has a whole rot in it and it's flagged. So I don't know who's flagging. Is anybody flagging those, or is that FPL, or I mean a PICO?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so from the township.
Okay,
What would be helpful? If we had a property address and even potentially a picture, if you have one of what you're doing, then we can, when we send the person out. You know, because the person who we're sending out is not necessarily a tree expert. They just would go out and say, there's a tree, you know, and I mean, obviously it's summed up very clear. But if there's one specific that you're concerned about, just a property address and a picture would help.
right. And so what's the best, what should be our procedure for that? If we do see a hazard tree, who do we notify and what's all the information that you need? So an address if possible, a picture.
I would communicate that directly through Heather. You all
All
have
right.
her contact
Yep.
information. That'll come from her. And I see it, and then. If you submit it to Heather.
Okay.
Submit that information to her. And then she can funnel it to me and we'll decide who has to go out there and take a look at it.
Because sometimes figuring out what the address is, because some of it abuts, it's the backyard of somebody's property, so we would have no clue.
If you can give us in between where it is,
Right.
something,
Okay.
just something that gives us a general,
Do something on Google Maps and then just point.
that would be great, or, if you know it's between 123 and 127, but it's the back of somebody's property, you can put the back of property between these two addresses, because I know Bishop Hollow Road has a lot of that.
That's good. Thanks. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss about that?
No.
All right. All right, moving on to old business, discussion and possible action on 2024 budget items not purchased. I think that was you, Rob. that we
Yeah,
had-
did you talk to the new secretary about the shirts where the order? I know we discussed last month. at the
Yeah,
meeting.
we talked about it, but I haven't, I mean, we're talking about what to do with that, but we haven't done any order. We have to figure out what it is exactly.
All right,
So we had as a purchase item, an additional iPad perhaps. And the one that we do have seems to be missing. So if it's permanently missing, so would the one that because we can't do a tree inventory until we have an iPad. So suggestions on what we should do in the interim until it's located, and if it is missing, it would then the iPad that we put in for this budget season, because we were hoping to have two, then should we propose to purchase another one to replace that one?
Yep. Yeah, I'm not really sure. We've gone through and searched everywhere. We're not sure what really's happened to that one.
Okay,
Different people think different people have last had it, so we're gonna have to make sure it's signed out going forward to make sure that's not a problem. I mean, we have every other iPad but that one. I mean, we can account for every one, but that one we cannot account for.
thanks. All right. I don't think, we don't need to take any action. Do we?
Now, the only thing was when John Hosback had called me and he wanted to make sure that we tried to find. Hello, John Hosback called me and he wanted to make sure that we knew that he might not be here or might just be late. He has a legal issue with a tree. But he was, he said, see if anybody has found the iPad yet, because legally, apparently, we can't use his iPad for doing our work.
Right.
And we can't even do a training on his iPad, apparently. So we can't even train to.
No, I know.
do
We
the-
just need to get you a new one if we can't find it.
Yeah.
So there's been a big effort over the last couple of weeks trying to go through. I know George has literally gone through everything. We actually thought somebody else had it. That person says they don't. So we're going through and trying to figure it out, but we will get another one and move forward.
And the code department does have an iPad that's not being used at the moment. So maybe we can supplement, at least for the short term, with that iPad.
Well, it has to have a certain program on it.
No, I
that we can
understand.
use it.
I mean, I don't think it's a problem in put that iPad or the one that we have currently, just put that program on there. If you can do that, then it shouldn't be a problem. We can get you at least that one.
So I thought we had to purchase a license for it, so I think that was part of the
Okay,
issue,
well-
so,
Well, I'm just gonna let you know that there's one. If you can use it, welcome to it.
thank you.
I don't think John said that was a problem at all. You
Really?
can copycat.
Oh, cool,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I think if we had the program, we bought the one, I think we can copycat on another one,
Okay,
I think.
Boots has an extra iPad. So Carol, did you want to go ahead and let John know that? That Andy
Yeah.
has an extra one?
Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you about that.
I mean, if we ordered one this week, it would probably be here early part of next week.
Okay. All right, so that would be good, because then if we wanted to put on the calendar, so I know when we get down there to the tree inventory training,
yeah,
let's
Okay,
talk about it
We,
then.
we can order one, but you could put an order in for us for one? See,
Yes,
take it over. Well, why don't we just do that then?
Okay,
we're going to. I'm gonna put an order in for one
Okay,
to replace the one that's missing.
all right,
Okay.
thank you.
What I probably can't do is order the one we were gonna order this year.
Right.
We'll put it in for the
Well,
budget
I
for
think
next.
we were gonna put in next year for another one anyway. In
Right,
the budget for next year. I think we discussed last month.
yeah.
right,
That's what we were gonna do. All right.
okay. All righty, all right, so we'll move on then, since we didn't need to take any action on that. So 8.2, discussion and possible action regarding the shade tree ordinance revisions. We have any updates on that, or?
Did it get sent to you?
yeah, well,
Well, yeah,
it wouldn't come through on mine. All I have is what I just now got.
Okay,
So Mr. Segura's comments were in the captions on the right-hand side of each page.
Oh, okay.
they're in the chat.
There were a few things that when I had provided my revision that I bolded. So that was the difference that, the modifications that I made before sending it off to Rich for his review. And I think you originally had that copy of my draft.
I haven't, I admit, I just have not had the bandwidth in order to dig into this much, but. It's what it is.
The only thing I saw, I thought when we discussed about the spraying of the trees. That you didn't. I thought we were gonna take that out of it. But that's what we discussed in the meeting upstairs that time,
Yeah,
which would be like prohibited activities. Wait later.
I don't remember. Yeah, I guess I just still have questions about what our role is in review or comment, if at all, on land development. So it doesn't sound like that we're going to be involved with any of that.
it's, I think that's his proposal back to. Is that you would not be.
And is it still the heritage trees or the? Gonna be part of the historical thing? In that,
I honestly have not seen his version. Do you know, did he pull out the heritage trees?
No, when the draft that I made, we did not touch it. We kept it along for further discussion. And I don't believe that there was a comment that he made regarding it. It still identifies the original change of 30 inches DBH versus the
yeah, that's what I
36.
see on like this.
So that's very, that change was evident from the draft that we're currently working under. which has a 36 dBH. So the heritage tree definition will change, but I think we have all agreed to that change. But as far as,
Can be
Um,
specimen or something like that. I think it's specimen.
I'm sorry,
It's gonna be specimen tree or something. They're gonna change it
Well, it
to. I
says
forget.
a specimen, so a heritage tree is defined as a specimen tree identified by the Shade Tree Commission as having a DBH of 30 inches or greater, or such particular historic value that the commission deems it worthy of consideration by the Historic Preservation Commission for inclusion on the Historic Resources Inventory. So, but the heritage tree over 30 only has to be within the right of way. So we couldn't even designate one, even if it had a historic resource, if it was somewhere other than a right of way.
I think that the historic commission can, I don't think you can. I think the way he's written it.
But we could probably do it in the park though, if it's township property.
Yeah, if it's on township property.
Yeah,
you can-
because I know that the one for the police officers over there, I mean, it's not a big tree, but it's
Yeah,
for Cunningham, was it? I guess it
Yes.
was, yeah.
And so the tree replacement formula doesn't even pertain to us anymore.
I think it was on page 5, there's a comment A7,
I see.
and I think Mr. Secor is suggesting that that be handled by the arborist.
See.
I think the other comment that I want to point out is that Mr. Secor is suggesting that the tree replacement formula be kept in this ordinance as well as being placed in the land development chapter, which would also need to be amended, but made consistent.
So, I mean, not like it's any of our business, but what about what about the in lieu fee?
What about
The in lieu fee part?
I think I think he's suggesting that that would be a board decision at the time of land development.
So what the fee would be, there wouldn't be something consistent that everyone would know upfront what they would have to.
there's a cost per tree planting that the arborist and the engineer have agreed to.
Right, there's an industry standard for it,
It's an industry standard.
right? So wouldn't that go into?
We
the
don't want to
ordinance?
ever put the amount in
No,
there.
and then just we would follow the industry
Well,
standard of
we'll
whatever
follow,
that
I
is.
think we'll follow what's part of our fee schedule is what we want to do it. So that we'll make it a part of the fee schedule.
So then for trees that come in under the in lieu, let's just say there's a project under land development. They don't have room, plant on site, all the replacement trees, the remainder, they're gonna satisfy the requirement through payment into an in lieu fee. Does that money then come to, or is that money available for shade tree to use for,
I think that's up to the board. Yeah,
so what would that money get used for then?
again, that's determined by the board. I mean, I can't make that decision that's a board decision. I mean, typically they apply it, but they may say it's gonna be for it may not be shade trees. It may be trees at a park, it may be that they decide that there's another piece of property that needs trees on it, and that's where they suggest putting it. I can't. Or they may say it's used to maintain trees. So it may be that, like we have spent close to $100,000 over the last 4 years taking down trees. They may say that's what it's going to be used for. I just don't know. Like, to say that it's going to be specifically allocated to this group for planting trees, I don't know.
For the
that-
township to plant trees, and if
Yeah.
you're part of that,
Yeah,
that would be great. My point is, it's not gonna go by like,
Stop signs.
thank you.
well, again, I think that's for the board to determine, and I can't set that. I've never had them do that. But I can't tell you that a future board wouldn't make that decision. That's not for me to decide.
I understand. But typically we make recommendations, right? So would that be part of so this is where it's like, I don't know where. So how would the recommendations then come for that if it came down to an in lieu fee on what?
We always put the money aside based on what it's for. And we have an account that we track it in. And so I would assume that we would continue to do the same, but I can't tell you how the board's going to spend that money because the board is the one that spends the money.
I'm not expecting you to, I'm just asking how it works, because I
So,
again, so it's more like, if it's going
Just-
to trees and things like that, that's fine, but I just didn't know if there was I don't know how you guys work, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'll stop asking questions, you're getting very angry with me.
I'm not angry with you. I'm just trying to,
Shooty with me, and I'll stop asking questions. All right,
no, I'm
let's move
trying to
on.
answer
Let's
your
move on.
question.
No,
I'll
let's
come
move
at it another way.
on.
If you're asking what the process is, the process is for the money to be collected. The money gets put aside in an account that's related to, we have an open space fund that we also put the tree monies in, and it goes in that area. It is broken out between the two areas because we have a fee in lieu of for recreation, and we have a fee in lieu of for trees. There's different things that people can do, and so we have a place where that money goes. But that's all I can tell you, and how it gets spent. I'm not sure I'm answering your question.
No, that's all I wanted to know, was
Oh,
like, how
okay.
does it work, and where does
That's
the
how-
money go? Does it go to be spent on, I don't know, paper supplies? I have no idea so that's.
It's
all I
not,
was-
it's not
was all.
added to the general fund, if that's what you're asking me, but it's but when the money gets to be spent, it's determined at the time by the board and the.
So we could like appeal to them and say, we want
Correct.
X amount of trees. We could go to them and say, yeah, we knew this money was in lieu of, could we have,
Yeah,
say, $5,000 to plant trees in the right of way in the
Yes.
township?
Or
Yeah.
go buy trees for our giveaway, or
exactly,
do
exactly,
something,
yeah.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I
And
wasn't
the other,
agreeing.
but I'm just saying,
and also the other part of that is, because it's part of the land development process, that would all be recognized, those types of things are recognized in developers' agreements, general notes on the plan. So when we rewrite this and add it to the land development code, there will be specifications and a procedure laid out in that. So when a developer comes in and files a preliminary, so there's basically two plan requirements in land development, preliminary and final. Some developers, depending upon the size of a project, may combine those that procedure into one preliminary final plan. But through the planning process, we always have review comments that are generated by the township engineer in regard to stormwater, by myself from a zoning perspective, by the fire marshal for fire and life safety, by the arborist in this case. John Hoshbach would do a review and submit that review letter along with all the other review letters. But it's going to be based on the criteria of the tree replacement program that's here and also will be written into the land development process. So when that happens, at the time when, as they're going through planning, obviously the review letters are presented to the planning commission recommending body, and they will recommend how they feel about a fee in lieu of being taken. And that can be made part of, well, that will be made part of the board's ultimate decision. And ultimately, those notes will be added to the plan and a developer's agreement. So for no different than if sidewalks were required and the board chose to take a fee in lieu of that. Those sidewalks, there would be something written into the developer's agreement that then would go along with that entire project. And that's how it would legally be recognized.
Thank you.
One more question on the revisions on this. Now, I know it says like has to be all native trees that we plant. Now, is that just our rule or is it like a state rule? Is that something the board came up with when they did the original?
Well, the board passed a resolution 4 years ago.
Yeah,
I
right,
don't
yeah.
remember exactly. That the town, on township property, we would plant native plants. And that included trees. Then I think that in the original shade tree ordinance, and I think it's still in this one, that there's a list of recommended trees that I think you all chose the list from, it's the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society or something like that, that are natives for this area. But I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but that's
Yeah,
my.
but I'm just saying, is it a state rule that they, like for the MS4 plan has to be native trees? Because what I'm saying is, like these trees that are available, there's like, you say there's an elm tree, or there's like an oak tree. Now, say it's a white oak, which is a native tree, but there may be a cultivar that it may be an oak that, you know, may not be a native oak.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
so-
like either elms and stuff like that, but they've been in this country since like the mid 1800s. You know, is it a reason why we're just excluding them, like that type of cultivar? Or is it like I didn't know if it was a state rule or just something that the board came up with as saying native? Or native could be, it's an oak tree, they don't care what it is, it's an oak, or are they gonna be like real touchy about if we go to plant along the streets and it has to be, says it has to be natives by the rule? Like, can we?
It is a resolution that the board passed. It is not a state law, but it is a resolution that the board passed. That, well, actually, my understanding, it is now a state law that on state roads, it has to be native plants. I think that the governor just passed that within the last couple of days. But the resolution that the township had was passed by the board that said that the township, and I'd have to look back at it, but it's a certain percentage of trees in the township have to be native. And what I can't remember is it 100% on township property have to be native, which would include then the right of way, which would include the street trees. I just have to look back at the
Right,
resolution.
because what I'm saying is, obviously, all these trees dying now,
Yeah,
like the oaks have a problem, the ashes have a problem. They're all native trees that are dying.
yeah,
I mean, there's whole theories about, yeah, we plant natives, but the natives are dying because they have no resistance to the stuff that comes over in the packing pallets. You know, these bugs and stuff that are coming from overseas, not that we don't give bugs from here and take them overseas and they got problems over there too. You know, but I'm just saying, if we, you know, have some diversity You know, not total,
Well,
but you know, some,
I
I mean,
think-
if we're not totally excluded from it, if we could write it when we're changing the ordinance. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think if you all want to make that recommendation to the board, I think the board would consider it. The board acted on an EAC, not it, yeah. Environmental Advisory Commission's desire to have only native plants and trees planted in the township.
Right.
And the board passed a resolution recommending to property owners to plant native plants. I think it required all plants on township property to be native, but I would have to look back to remember. It may have been 86% or something like that, but
Right.
I would have to look back at it.
All right,
I think our tree list has non-natives on it too.
And
Well,
we
I
want to
didn't
make that tree list part of this ordinance. So I had
well,
been-
that's
I
why I'm
was
saying
called in-
before we change it and then say, oh, we should have put this in there,
That's
like
right.
I said, there's,
So do you want to review? Do you want to revisit our recommended tree list? Is that what you're suggesting we do?
I think we just have to look if it's non-native. You know, that it isn't exclusive of all native trees. You know, that there can be like I said, you could have an oak tree. That's a white oak or a red oak, that's a
Right.
native tree, but then you have. Like say an English oak or whatever, that's not, or even like an elm that. Certain cultivars of elms aren't native to this area, but.
Right.
Grow very well and
Right.
do very well and been in the country for, like I said, since the mid 1800s, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think because the way this ordinance is kind of breaking out land development from the shade tree policy in the ordinance. I think right now, the way I had originally worded it, I used the term exhibit. So I was referencing back to list and identifying them by number. So
Right.
exhibit 1, exhibit 2, exhibit 3, which I don't have that information. I was just making sure that we had a placeholder to it be inclusive of that document. Mr. Secor is suggesting that we just call it an appendix. Doesn't matter to me what we call it. The idea, the main point is to create those lists that identify the trees that are native and approved to be both shade trees as well as part of the tree replacement formula.
Right.
So you may come up with different criteria for the tree replacement formula because that is going to be part of the land development phase of this. And the shade tree is going to be everything that's along the public right of way and public land.
Yeah, because obviously, like the elms that died, like out in the Midwest and all, were replanted with ash trees, and now they're all gone. So they're starting over again. They're this, I mean, it's
But
what
there's
happened.
nothing wrong with
you know?
staying on that list or otherwise approved
Right,
by this committee. So at the end, you can create a whole list of trees that you feel are appropriate native to the area.
I just didn't know if it was because like the state says that has to be native. Or, you know, that's what they followed, or it was just a recommendation like by the EAC or something like that, that we could finagle with like the plant list and all that, you know.
Well, I think that if it's not a native, that it would need to be approved by the board, or at least be run against the resolution. We have to confirm what the resolution says, is my point. But if the resolution stands as an action that we have to enforce, and if the board doesn't want to continue to enforce that, or you're wanting to plant something different,
No,
then we
but I'm
have
saying
to
if we
change
change
that
it-
resolution.
If we change it in the ordinance,
But the
doesn't-
resolution would also have to be changed. Like my point is, you can't just list a tree. I think that at least my understanding was that we wanted to keep the list separate from the ordinance. We wanted to refer to it, but we didn't want to make it tied to the ordinance directly, so that if it needed to change, you can change it going forward without having to always change the ordinance. But again, I think if we're going to put something on it that's not native, we need to compare it back to the resolution. And if the resolution says 100% of the plantings on the township properties need to be or township controlled, or however it's written, I forget how it was written, need to be, native, then either we need to adjust the resolution, and the board may be willing to do that, or we can't we can't recommend it as a tree to be planted for township properties. I don't know that it would matter on land development, because I think that there's a percentage, but I don't remember that being for the township.
Have to revisit our list.
Any more discussion on the ordinance? We supposed to take some action? Steve, are we supposed to take action on?
I don't think so.
If you're not ready to take action, I think you got it this week or end of last week, if you're not ready, I think we could probably put it off to the August meeting. I do want to get it done soon, I want to get it back to the board. But if you have questions or concerns and you want to take a little bit longer, and if we need to get you the resolution, we'll get you the resolution related to the native plantings. I don't have my computer in front of me, or I would try to pull it up right now, but.
All right, so we'll move on. Discussion of possible action regarding the upcoming news letter articles.
Okay, so we have had a good discussion with Linda from Dandelion Digital. And we had two wonderful articles come in from the commission, one from Dan and one from John Hosbach. The only thing was we didn't quite get them in time for them to get into the digital newsletter that went out. And so they are ready and waiting for next month. So they're here and ready to go. And Dan, I'm going to maybe add just a little intro paragraph and a couple of photographs that might
Sure.
help fill it out so
Yeah.
that it's
Beef it up a little bit.
a little,
Okay.
common man friendly.
Sure.
So I'm gonna, I have it on I retyped it, so I've got it. I just have to adjust it. With your approval, that is. I'll send it to you first so that you can look at it.
First,
Okay. So other than that, so we don't have anything new that we have to do for this coming month, since we still have the ones from this month, which we'll be using next month. So we won't have to worry about anything until next month. They are going to be, apparently there's been enough people that want a printed copy that they're going to be doing a summer edition of the township newsletter in some way, shape or form that will be printed. And so they're still deciding how they were going to do it. There would be copies available here at the township building. But so that would be interesting to have that, because a lot of people like to save their newsletters so that they can use them to look up, when is the leaf pickup and when is this, and if people that don't have a computer or don't like the computer, they like to have something paper to hang on to, so that's it. Newsletter articles, we don't have to do anything this month because we have this month's, we got a carryover, we got excess. That's it.
Thanks, Carol. Okay, discussion, possible action, the fall tree planting event. Have any updates?
We haven't had a meeting since the last meeting. And, oh, maybe we did. Yes, we did have a meeting since the last meeting. We had a Zoom meeting with the two members of EAC that are in our little group. And we told them that we had discussed the upcoming tree planting, the tree giveaway, so to speak, at our meeting here, and decided we were going to go with fewer trees, but larger caliber. And they were a little taken aback, but but they agreed. Once we, explained why we wanted to do it, they said, hey, that's fine, we like that. So so we are going to be, heading that direction. So I guess our next step will be trying to figure out is sort of getting the wording and stuff for, well, I think actually Cindy already started that.
Yeah, we have the postcard and the
flyer.
flyer. They were actually working on that today. I'm hoping that it goes out tomorrow. I did change the date to respond back to the 15th because it's later than what we had said we were going to say, 15th or 16th, later than what we were going to originally send it out. So that's going out. The one thing that it didn't have was who is the contact. If somebody wants to, who do we want people reaching out to? There was no contact on either the postcard or the flyer. So I just need to know who that is. And if you want it to be somebody from the office, then I'll either make it Heather or Mara.
I think it's more appropriate if someone from the township would be the point of contact.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and I'll discuss it with the staff. It'll either be Heather or Mara and we'll get that added. And then we'll get that out hopefully tomorrow. I think it's 86 properties. I saw the list today. There was 86 homes that it would go to, and that's Winding Way. It's Winding Way from St. Albans up to Ashley, and then Beechwood from Winding Way to where it turns into Ashley. So that's 86 properties, which is about half. And so we had hoped half people would participate. So I think you were aiming for something like 30 or 40 trees, if I recall right. And that we think that's probably a big enough area. And if we planted that, I think it would do well if we got 30 trees in that amount of area, 40 trees in that amount of area. Is that right? You're looking at me kind of.
Yeah, now I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Like I just got like Site One and nurseries are doing like some inventory, like they're doing like 50, 60, 70% off on some of these trees. If we purchased them and say like trees, like we were like a $200 number, some of these trees are coming in like $125. Okay,
Okay.
they're on sale at these nurseries right now because they want to dump their summer inventory because fall stuff's going to be coming in. If we made the purchase now, could the township stockpile them and water them?
Well,
You
we
think-
have the money to purchase the trees.
That's what I'm saying. If we
Yeah.
did it now, if we bought, maybe we might be able to get more trees for, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
More properties.
But I'm just saying, would George take on that, or is
I-
that something I have to talk to him about?
Yeah, talk with him
Talk
about
to
it.
him.
You two work
discuss
that
it with him.
out.
Yeah.
I
alright.
think I want to say there was like $3,900 each. You and EAC both
Right.
had like, if I don't have it right in front of me, so. But I mean, I think there's. I mean, it's roughly what, about $7,900, I think, that we had budgeted for
Right.
trees. So if
What I'm
No.
saying, I don't know if George wants to take on the responsibility of over these until like November when they're planted.
well, he probably doesn't, but
I know, but I'm
But-
saying, yeah,
but like, I don't know, like what we, maybe we.
because I know they had some oaks, they had some maples, that, I mean, this was last week that I got the thing, and I just thought
Yeah.
I'd ask, that if it comes about, could we make a purchase, without having a.
Well, we have the nursery and we have somebody who kind of helps out in the nursery.
Right.
The question is how much, does he have enough time for the guys to water the nursery
Right,
on a regular basis? But
I mean, I don't know if it's something that they have water that they could run up there and just put a soaker hose on it, and run
Yeah.
a soaker hose, that's what I've done at my.
I don't know how it's
Just
done.
ask George. Okay.
George maintains that nursery. I just know that it's worked. And, you know, I mean, I know we lost some of this really small stuff last 2 years ago because of the heat, or last year because of the heat. But
I mean, I've even done them on like blacktop and put wood chips on them and they've done, you
Yeah.
know. You just water them that way and you have a soaker hose that run in between them when I've had, you know, big planting jobs that I have stuff waiting until they're ready to plant them. I've done that before, you know. You
Yeah.
just bank them in with wood chips. I mean, it could be something that it doesn't have to be in the nursery area. It could be like adjacent to it, even on like a little stone thing, and just bank them in and then, you know, but I'll ask him and see what he says.
yeah, I mean,
You
just have a conversation with him, see what he, George is usually pretty accommodating if he can be.
All right.
Although I know he's pretty overworked right now, but I mean, we'll ask
All
him.
right. I will.
Is there anything else that we need to be doing from the staff's perspective to help make sure this happens?
I think the thing has to go out. I mean, who is, I guess Marty Milligan was like in that area or something. Someone said that.
Yeah,
He might
somebody
be
said
doing-
about, I don't know who the people were gonna be, the people that went door to door.
Right.
Both of the, but like I said, we're planning on mailing the postcards tomorrow. And then we'll have the flyers done and ready to go.
Did it come in like the fee was somewhere around $40 or something for the?
I think
don't
that's
even-
what we have on, I'm pretty sure that was what
That's
was
what
on
we
there.
cr- That's the number we had, come up with.
Come
Yeah.
up with, just for like the watering bag and stuff like that,
I think that was gonna pay for I think we determined that $40 would cover the bag,
the stakes, but we
The
don't even know
stakes.
if we want to stake them.
We
What
talked
if-
about not.
Yeah.
What if somebody wants a tree and doesn't want to pay the $40?
They
Don't
don't
get
get
a
it.
tree.
All right,
They can go to Home Depot and get their own.
We pay $250 for one. On a tree.
I mean, I think we have to just see what the response is.
I mean, here's what I would tell you, if you ordered trees, and let's assume that we, for whatever reason, can only get 40 of 60 trees that we buy planted on that street or in that area. My guess is that we would probably plant them in other places. Like I have other places in the township that need trees. And so, I mean, I know of another place right now that I could go plant 3 or 4 of them, so.
Right.
On township property. So,
All right.
yep.
So we'll wait and see what the response is coming back from the postcards and
Yeah.
jump ahead from there. Good.
What was the date that you selected for return?
15.
August, I think it was 15.
Okay. All right, any more discussion on that?
Because if we get them out tomorrow, that would basically be almost 2.5, 3 weeks. I think if you give people much longer than that, they won't, they're either going to respond or they're not.
Yeah.
But there's already somebody went around and talked to these.
Yeah,
people
I
and
think
said-
Sheila's already got 4 or 5 people that she thinks are interested. They're waiting
Right.
for the card to come.
Okay, next item, update on tree inventory training.
But we can't train side without an iPad. John wants us to set up something. But we sort of have to see when we get an iPad first before we can take that next step.
So let's assume worst case scenario, it takes us 2 weeks. I mean, if we get it ordered, I can't imagine it taking longer than that. Would you tie it to a meeting? Is that what you're gonna do? Or are you trying to just tie it to a night that's not a meeting night?
Now, we found that tying it to a meeting didn't work.
Okay,
So we're gonna tie it to, and John says it's like anything would be good for him. I mean, he can always, we can always pick out a couple days and say, okay, if we decide that, Thursday nights is best for us, we can try that. But he says he's done by that time of the day anyway, so he can always, bop over to Brookside Park and meet us all at 5:30 and go from there.
Okay,
But we just need to have the, that digital little doodad so that we can do it.
all right. I'll work with Heather tomorrow to go ahead and get this ordered, and I know we need to get the license reloaded on it, so that might be the only thing that would be a delay.
Yeah,
I think if you're doing that, even if you did it outside of this meeting, you could go ahead and plan that and do it. Because you're not making any decisions, you're just,
right, we're just recording information.
yep.
Okay,
When are you away next
so
week?
then, huh?
When are you away next week?
I'm actually gonna be here all this month. It's September through December is when my schedule gets bad. So, I mean, how about if we?
What do you
try to
just want
shoot
to
for-
shoot for a time now, set up the time, and if the iPad's on here, it's not here and set up?
Let's do.
You can always
let's-
cancel it, but
Well, let's set it for 2 weeks and on a Thursday, 5:30, whatever. I don't have my calendar.
The 8th,
Yeah, then we could, and then how about we pick a rain day? Since we got rained out last time.
That's 1, 2, 8. Oh, 3 weeks is the 15th. Sure, let's try for the 8th, and if we don't have the equipment, we'll go for the 15th.
all right.
Thursday, the 8th, at 5:30 Brookside Park, and we'll keep in contact. And,
Or why don't we just put it on that?
yeah, we will do that.
text?
Dan, before you go, if you, will you give us a phone number so that we can text you?
Yes. On the side of
Thank
his
you.
car.
Okay,
Okay, so we don't have any publics. So there's no public comment. Items for next agenda.
items for next agenda, everything that we had on this agenda.
Yeah. it's- I don't think we need to talk about hazard trees unless there's a new one. We'll find. Yeah.
Yeah. it's a- Yeah, if we find any new, hazard trees, I'm sure we can make a list. We'll start recording them.
I'm meaning to ask you for that.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, well then. Meeting adjourned.